Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Rogan and Runescape. I got an interesting episode today. I got a new guest, Krusty Croc. He's around my age, 27, and plays RS3. A lot of other interesting things, man. A lot of interesting things. So we're about to get deep into it. We're going to hear a little bit about nutrition. We're going to hear a little bit about UFC, perhaps, and we're going to talk a little bit about RuneScape, RS3. As far as I go, I'm probably going to do more listening on the RS3 side of things because I haven't really played. But yeah, without further ado, Croc, what's up, bro?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, RS3 is a totally different beast. I've been playing since kind of the ages of old school. Maybe I'm gonna expose myself as the true casual I am here, but of course I started super early. I think I made my first account in like 2005, 2006, but I lost like 4 accounts since then. And so my kind of current account, it's in RS3. I never really I'm a filthy casual, man. I never really got involved enough to look closely enough into how to even play old school. so I just never really transitioned back to the OG. But yeah, RuneScape is cool, and it definitely, like you said, we're all around the same age. All these people who found this game around the same time, who are living vastly different lives, all kind of coalesce around this one kind of random event that was that they became obsessed by this video game for a little while. And I definitely remember those summers where playing for like 8 hours is an understatement.
Right.
Yeah.
You're getting sweaty.
Exactly. But as you were kind of, at least in my case, it kind of faded out of my life. After, so I've been kind of all over the place. I was born in Europe, but we moved to the States when I was in 5th grade or like middle school, somewhere around there.
Wow.
And I finished high school in the States. So that was that was around the time, towards the beginning of that was when RuneScape kind of came into my life. Towards the end there, it started to fade out. But after I finished high school, I went to university in Europe. And so I was abroad. My family was still in the US. I would come to visit them over the summers, but I was away from my family for most of the year. And at that time, it definitely became kind of a comforting mechanism. Like, it was a nostalgia that was really simple to just reach out and grab it, let's say, and it became incredibly comforting. So I had these little binges. I go on little binges with RuneScape. I'll go for a couple weeks pretty hardcore, then maybe not be in love with it for a couple months. Do other stuff. My attention kind of shoots all over the place, and that's how crocodiles do.
That's how crocodiles do. Fuck yeah, man. So that's fucking badass. You went to university in Europe after high school here in America. How was middle school, real quick, before we get into some of the other topics? How was middle school like? Did you already have pretty good English, or is that something that you had to work on?
Yeah, that's something that was kind of a difference. I remember my mom would pay me a quarter for Yu-Gi-Oh cards, because I was into Yu-Gi-Oh cards huge when we were moving over. She would give me a quarter for each Yu-Gi-Oh card that I would copy the text to practice my English a little bit, because she tried to combine my passion for this little game and practicing English. But I already knew English. I already knew a little bit of English, definitely enough to not be lost in the world, because in Europe they teach language courses from a really young age. So in Europe, you imagine that each state is a separate country with a separate history, a separate language, a separate culture, a separate everything.
Exactly.
And all of these countries still have to do business together all the time. They still have to communicate. You interact with people from different countries all the time. So there's kind of a couple umbrella languages that occur in the system, and English is definitely the ultimate world's language. Everybody needs to speak English, and because there's such a, let's say, imperative there to teach it early, I had English since first grade in school, and so by the time that I came over here, I was already later early school, later primary school. I spoke pretty well. I needed a little help, of course, in the first year. I was adjusting. Also, like there's cultural differences that are expressed in language, and there's certain little words that you forget to say, and it can screw with what you're trying to say. But,
right.
But yeah,
that's so interesting.
There was little differences, we always take our shoes off when we're in the house, and that's not exactly everybody in America, not exactly everybody does that. We lock our cars meticulously. Right. I will jam the lock button 8 times. But I was in a medium upper scale neighborhood in during this time, and none of my buddies would lock their cars. They even made fun of me. Wow. That I'm paranoid. My buddies will leave their door open. You could just show up at their house unannounced. Not a chance in my household. That's not how things are done.
Right. Because guess what? What's the number one way to have someone steal from you or to have someone one up you? It's when you slip up and you leave a doorway open. The number one way to prevent someone, even one of your buddies, peers, or friends from stealing from you, the best way to prevent it is to fucking lock your car door. If you don't want a stranger to walk up to your car or anyone, just lock your door.
There's a saying, the opportunity makes the thief.
Right, man. Right. So, real quick, shout outs to, heard you say filthy casuals earlier. That was pretty funny. Shout outs to them. And, also, so the whole state thing with Europe, that's something I tried to explain to a lot of people here. Because, one of the sad, unfortunate things about Americans, I guess, at least the people that I'm around, a lot of them, especially if they haven't gone to university, haven't had the experience of leaving the States at all, but let alone to Europe. If they leave the States, typically it's to the Bahamas or Costa Rica or something that's kind of a touristy spot. But not many people have gone to Germany, France, Denmark. They haven't had that experience. And it was so crazy, man. When I went to Denmark in 2012, it was literally a feeling of leaving a bubble and feeling not that there's anything necessarily 100% wrong or bad about me living here, but it was a feeling of escaping a bubble of feeling a certain way. And then realizing oh my God, there is literally life outside of this bubble that exists in different ways, that has perfect ways of transportation. They have food banks for if you don't have the money and you just want to go behind a bakery, and they have bread that instead of throwing it away, because here in America everything's about lawsuits.
This is hilarious. This is one of the main. So the dorms there in Europe are not as developed and well built as the ones around the US. So it's not nearly as glamorous of an experience. So I would always get a cheap apartment with my buddies. And one of the apartments was near a butcher shop that had a restaurant attached to it. So the stuff that the butcher shop wouldn't sell the day before, they would cook into stews or different grilled meats and sell it as lunch, and none of it was bad. It's just that it was out for a while, and the meat and the food was incredibly cheap. It was hilarious. There was no seating in this restaurant. It was all standing, and it's kind of get your food, eat, and get out kind of a thing. Super cheap, super quick, and it's an awesome concept that I am kind of amazed hasn't been more exploited. You know what I'm saying?
What, to give away cheaper food?
No, to have the like two things there, because the butcher is
Oh, okay.
food. The butcher's always going to have like extra food, right? Or like extra, meat. And to have
Oh.
this excess get taken care of by having this restaurant on the side that serves, people who are, doing whatever, needing lunch.
Yeah, man. Honestly, there's so many I think I don't know if you've used this word recently, litigious, but there's so many like lawsuit aspects of American culture. Like anything you do, like you gotta, worry about maybe 20 years later there being like a lawsuit, like all that stuff. People could just like sue you for anything, saying that they hurt themselves. When people get in car accidents, even if they didn't get hurt, they'll say they got hurt. Everything's about like insurance and like lawsuits here. But the crazy thing is there's like 30, I thought it was higher, but it says that there's about 40% wasted food in America. I thought it was 1/4. There might be other supplies. I mean, other statistics.
40% is crazy. That's what you said, right? I'm just making.
Yeah, I just Googled it, the percentage of wasted food in America, and so it's kind of
crazy.
Insane.
That's almost half.
Right. And and you think about people that are starving to death, or just starving to a sense of like being emaciated. I mean, there really are people that just are hungry, and
yeah, definitely.
But real quick, before I forget, you mentioned something about shoes indoors, and so I've been looking into, of course, when COVID like kind of calms down a little bit, looking into traveling Europe, and I've been looking at different customs of different cultures and stuff like that. And for example, like with Russia, there's a lot of things that I didn't realize that are like aspects of their culture. For example, you're not supposed to wear shoes indoors. It's a sign of disrespect. You're not supposed to whistle inside someone's house because that shows like a sign of disrespect, as if you're like cursing them to poverty.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to leave empty bottles on top of the table. You're supposed to put them on the ground. You're not supposed to shake hands with gloves on. You're supposed to take your glove off. So it's really interesting to read these things. And I've been watching a lot of videos on like St. Petersburg and Moscow. And God, it's so beautiful, man. Like the churches in St. Basil Church.
It is beautiful. Russia's a crazy place, and it's also a totally different like society. It's a very much Easternized culture and society in ways that are not really, not really obvious. I don't know. They have a totally different way of thinking about problems and solving things. One like really simple example is that they are a completely status-based society. So just like in the West, we kind of want to like not downplay, but we don't want to give like your boss advantages over you in things that aren't related to your work, because that's unfair, right? In things that aren't related to your work, if like your boss gets like lunch cheaper not because the company's paying. Maybe this is going nowhere. Maybe we should restart this, but it's a very different culture. I
understand what you're saying, because one of the things that was mentioned in the videos was that don't be surprised if there's a tourist price and then like a native price.
Yeah, definitely, especially on anything that's.
Yeah, don't get offended if like you go to a restaurant and waitresses are not like smiling at you, paying like overly, being unnecessarily like friendly. Like the service is different. But I don't know. It's really interesting. I hope everyone gets an experience to travel to some country in Europe, whether it be, Germany, Denmark.
Not just in Europe, anywhere in the world. Just the opportunity to see different cultures, different societies, different types of people. It's interesting, and it reaches into something deeply human with the concept that you spoke about earlier of getting out of your bubble. I'm pretty sure I've had like almost depressive spells because I've like seen the same shit all the time over and over again. So just if your life becomes monotonous, monotone, I don't know, whatever. The point is, if you do the same things over and over, it's the same drive to work every day. You see the same McDonald's on the road every day. You have to wait at the same light at the same intersection. You actually even start to listen to the same music. You start to think about the same thing when you get to these points where you're stuck, it's so refreshing. It feels like, drinking water when you're thirsty, to go somewhere that you haven't seen. Literally visuals, even if you're studying in the same room every day, going to a different room to study can very easily change like the vigor with which you study.
100%, man. That's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah, it really opens up your eyes. I guess I'll just add like one last thing. I kind of want to transition into asking you some stuff about nutrition. Of course, we can come back to the travel later. But one thing that was kind of crazy, like when I went to Mexico, I think, I don't know. I don't really remember what age. I think I was 12 or 13. But I saw like a kid that was like my age, like, or younger, like working at a shop or something. And I just remember the feeling, and also just seeing like the level of like people chasing after like the cars and stuff, like for candy or money, like in Dominican Republic, when there'd be like tour groups and stuff. Like you just kind of see like how some of the world is living, and they're still smiling, man. Like they might not have like what we have, and like a lot of times a lot less, and it's refreshing. And very beautiful too. Mexico, I mean, all around the world has something to offer,
Yeah, everything, every experience, almost every experience is worth it. But things like travel, the experience is almost always worth it. But yeah, man. So when I studied in Europe, I actually didn't I definitely undertook the advantage. Like I didn't take enough advantage of just like how much this place has to offer and how much you can travel, how much you can see. I definitely did travel while I studied there, but I studied medicine. So I spent a lot of time on my ass, just really studying.
Right. I could imagine.
And now I'm a crocodile. I'm back in Florida, but yeah, this study of medicine, it becomes very much a lifestyle. Some people can get very much consumed by it, can kind of destroy some people's ego by building it into kind of a stone statue of what a human being should be instead of a human being. And I'm not really sure where I was going with that, but
that's interesting. So you were studying medicine. Is that sports medicine? Did that evolve into sports medicine, or what is kind of more of your niche?
So this is my house. I study medicine. You study it generally. You specialize after you finish school. So school is everything. You need to know everything. Then once you finish school, you start to specialize as a kidney doctor, or as a sports medicine doctor, or as a oncologist, whatever. But yeah, you have to study everything. I just have kind of grown a passion for sports in the last 2 years of my life, which is pretty late. Most people who love sports realize it much earlier in life. And I did sports all throughout my life, in high school, before high school, even as a very, very young kid. But it always felt forced. It always felt like there was this hierarchical structure, and I had to listen to what the coach is telling me. And I didn't want to be doing any of this, and he's forcing me to do it. And it just wasn't my thing, at all, in any sport, simply because of this kind of structure.
Right.
But then really, really pretty late in my life, like I said, 2 years ago, I discovered first Muay Thai, which is Thai kickboxing. It's called the Art of 8 Limbs because it involves the elbows and the knees as well. It's a really brutal way of fighting. If you see the fights on YouTube, it's crazy. And through starting that, I started, in true Rogan fashion, the jiu-jitsu. So right now I actually do 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, which is hilarious. My coach is pretty high ranked among 10th Planet people.
Damn,
dude. Yeah, this passion kind of came later. And so as I'm now, doing these exercises, I'm in the best shape that I've ever been in because I don't hate the doing the sports. I hated practice. hated the competition. I liked very few, but only some of my teammates. It wasn't a fun thing in the past. Somehow I had to get choking involved for it to be fun, you know?
Right.
And so through this being fun now, it's yielded results on my body. And I would say that I'm in the best shape that I've ever been in my life. And I'm kind of interested in maintaining and maximizing things that I like about it. So I've kind of been, doing some research about exercise, working out, and nutrition. The sports medicine angle kind of comes from the fact that my teammates are constantly injured, and everybody knows that I studied medicine. So I'm just like, they come to me before they actually pay somebody to take care of them. But I've essentially
naturally.
Exactly. I've essentially learned how to do a lot of the work of orthopedic doctors, joints and muscles. These people hurt them, once a week. And so I had to learn up on how to do all the movements to test the mobility of joints, like elbows and shoulders and knees, because that's what they're damaging 80% of the time. So yeah, I've been learning that. That's not really where my passion lies within medicine, but I love medicine. So even this is exciting and something I want to learn about. And yeah, with nutrition, I've just been on this swing where, it sounds so nerdy and terrible, but counting calories, it really works. It's really changing the shape of my body. I was always a doughy person, and it's starting to, sculpt itself a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah, I have someone a family friend or whatever that was talking about how she doesn't really do any diet. She just uses some calorie counter and how that's improved like with her. Do you have any specific vitamin brands that you recommend or unofficially or or
no brands, because brands, bro, if you start a company and you can't put it in, sell it and have it be effective, you don't deserve to be at Walmart. So just go to Walmart. Okay. And honestly, especially with multivitamin, and especially if you do sports. So fun fact, what are vitamins? Vitamins are vital amines. So these are a class of molecules that is required for reactions to happen in living beings. So if a cell is alive, it do certain chemical reactions to create substances to maintain itself alive. In order to do these very, very, very basic reactions that essentially keep all cells alive, you need vitamins. So essentially, if you are a regular person who doesn't exercise too much, who doesn't, whatever, overextend themselves physically, then you're probably getting enough of these vital amines from your food. If your food is minimally processed, right? So you essentially want to eat things that are as close to being alive as possible. And that sounds awful, but plants vegetables? Are alive. Vegetables, even animals, but it matters a lot on what matters is essentially the processing that occurs between the end of the life and your consumption of it. So you want to minimize that as much as possible.
All right, I got to ask a question everyone's thinking, though. Have you eaten any live animals? Crickets, worms?
No, but I have steak tartare, which is just raw beef. Okay. It's just raw minced beef that you eat on toast. And it was pretty good. It's a really fancy thing that you can, you can't do it too often. But it was nice. It felt interesting. It's definitely an experience worth getting if you ever see it on the menu. So it's going to be $26 for this appetizer, right? It's not going to be something that's easy. But if you've never had it and you're ready to get freaky that night, probably you don't want to do it on a date, right? You don't really want to pull out the exactly the raw minced beef on a date with on a first date with somebody. But
Why,
feed
man?
your boys.
Why not give her? Why not eat some raw meat before you give her some raw meat? Hey,
Hey, you should. You definitely need to keep it raw. You definitely need to. But whatever. The point is, it's nice. And so these vitamins are in everything now. If your cells have a much higher metabolism, right? Obviously, reactions have to occur faster. They need more fuel because they need to do more. So they're going to expend more of these vital amines than the average person. And that's when you need to start taking like a multivitamin. And because multivitamins, like I said, are so basic, you should be able to be good with whatever you get wherever. You know what I mean? Like if it's professionally sold, it should be good.
okay, yeah. Yeah, I think I usually use like, I forget, Nature Made or Nature Valley. Sometimes if you go to like Elwood Thompson, they can be like way expensive. And you question about that. So I had a friend that was kind of talking to me, and I want to bring this up to you. Have you heard anything of the combination of zinc and quercetin? And also, based on weight, what might you need nutrition wise? Like, so you kind of covered that with like vitamins. Maybe if you have a higher metabolism, you kind of need more because your body expends more, which is interesting. I did not know that. But like, I'm not really like a doughy dude. Like, never. I've always been able to kind of eat whatever I want to. Although, like, I'm sure.
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. You have no idea. And yeah, anyway, continue.
It's dangerous because just because you don't see the results on the outside, you think that you're pretty much invulnerable to anything. So you don't really get to see the inside of your body. But yeah, based off weight, like, what would you recommend? I mean, for a while, for lunches, man, for, I don't know, a couple months, I was packing just rice, grilled chicken, and vegetables and eating that every day, and scrambled eggs every day for a while. And at first it sucked, or actually, no, it was hard-boiled eggs. First it sucked, but then eventually, like, I started to get used to it, and it's like no big deal at all. But so yeah, have you heard about zinc and quercetin at all? And also, like, yeah, what would you recommend, like, as far as nutrition wise for people on different weights? Like, what would they eat?
Okay, so let's start with zinc and quercetin. Zinc is good. I am not familiar with quercetin. I'm going to look it up. We can actually get back to that next time. But zinc is definitely good for you. It's essential for many proteins that have many important functions, including in immunity, including in wound repair, including in just general maintenance of healthy tissues. So zinc is definitely huge, and I believe it's like relatively rare in nature. There's not a lot of foods that are high density in zinc. I'm not, don't quote me on that, but I think that's the kind of story with zinc, is that like it is essential, used a lot. It is something that you'll get from the diet, but there's not really any like super high value sources. And that's why people supplement them.
Interesting.
The other thing was about actually eating. So here's the thing. It always depends on what your goal is, right? So there's no one right thing. It depends. What do you want to do? Do you want to lose fat? Well, then there's different ways to do that. Do you want to build muscle? There's different ways to do that. Do you want to like build muscle and lose fat? There's certain ways to do that. So like an important factor in pretty much any kind of like diet that's intended to put you in shape is that your minimal daily requirement of protein is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So you need to convert your weight to kilos and then calculate how much you should be consuming. Once you have this, then you can, check, your basic metabolic expenditure, which is essentially how many calories your body spends just sitting there all day. If your body never moved, how many calories would it spend? Based on that number, you want to go under or above, depending on what your goals are. So if you want to lose fat, obviously you're going to have to, not go over or above that, but you have to calculate that into your calories that you're consuming every day, right? And so if you exercise, obviously you need to consume more than just the basal metabolic needs because you're moving. So you're using more energy, more everything. So you need to eat more. If you want to gain muscle, you need to consume even more calories. So like a good way to think of they're a measure of energy. So it's literally like the little percentage points in a battery, right? So every calorie kind of like is one unit of being able to do something.
Right.
And there's different
fuel packets.
Calories. Exactly, fuel packets. And there's many different sources of calories. It's important that you keep your protein maintained, even if you're just trying to lose fat, even if you're not trying to gain muscle, just trying to slim down. It's still important that you meet at least that 0.8 grams per kilo. If you want to build muscle, obviously you need to go higher than that. I think like a good range is 1. And while I was researching this, I believe they said that like over 2 grams per kilo, there's no more benefit from the protein. So at that point, it's just wasted like money that you're consuming, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Like, it definitely makes sense. I mean, if you have a desk job, maybe you need less calories if you're concerned about your weight. But if you're moving around and on your feet all day, maybe, and you're smaller or whatever, thinner, I guess, maybe you need more calories. Like,
you certainly do. You certainly do. And then, you need to ask yourself the proportion, then you need to ask, where do you want the energy to come from? Do you want the energy to come from the fat stores that you already have in your body? If that's the case, then you need to eat, as few as possible. If you want to eat honey and just get that sugar and just go off those calories, you can do that too. And that can be helpful in certain situations, not helpful in others, right?
That's interesting. Eating honey, is that for people that would be trying to lose weight, or is that an alternative diet, or what's up with that?
So it's people kind of use supplements before high like level performances. So I think it's like power lifters before they go like do their PRs or like, the hardest part of their workout, they'll have like a tablespoon of honey just to like spike their blood sugar so that their muscles are completely supplied as much as they can be.
Wow.
With fuel, and just fucking go do the
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And that applies to people who sprints. It doesn't apply so much to marathoners, because if you're going to have sustained long exercise, you're going to burn the glucose that's in your blood. And then your liver has to start putting more glucose into the blood to feed the muscles, to keep the muscles moving, right? So your liver has to change this metabolism, and that takes a lot of energy. And your liver doesn't want to do that halfway through your long run. So if you're going to do like a long distance endurance exercise, this isn't the best idea.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. So what do you think about like stuff like vitamin waters? Like, I love the way they taste, but one of my friends recently had brought up how and Rogan had talked about this, how there's certain chemicals that, like, when you like juice raw kale or something like that constantly, you might get a toxin in your body. I wanted to Google the name of the toxin. I forget what it is. Well, have you heard of that? Have you heard Rogan talk about that?
With anything, I don't remember this, but this is true with anything. It also famous fish. So if you consume a lot of one thing, things have toxins on them that's like natural, right? Like, I don't know. I can't really think of a great example right now, but let's just say that there's like some lead in everything, right? Like one molecule of lead in everything. If let's say there's 3 molecules of lead in every of kale. So you need to eat 300,000 leaves before it's a problem, right? If you just keep eating leaves, if you just concentrate on one item in your diet instead of having a varied diet, you're going to be accumulating all kinds of things that your body is not necessarily used to. The lead example is really true in fish. So fish, when a water source gets polluted with lead, fish eat the lead. Bigger fish eat the fish that ate the lead. So there's like a filter of it getting concentrated right there. And then bigger fish eat those fish and it accumulates. And we only eat the biggest fish. So we only eat the ones with the most potential lead inside them. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, because it's like the food chain. So the little ones can consume the lead, and then the bigger ones eat that, and they're eating a whole bunch of the little ones, and then that concentrates in them. Yeah.
And that's the ones we eat. We eat the bigger ones, right?
Right. So do you think that, like, are there like any, I don't know, I guess I'd have to do the research to see specific things, but like I'll drink like a vitamin water or just like some sort of thing with it in there, maybe a body armor. And I just see like all these vitamins in there. And sometimes I just question like how much is too much. And you were talking about lead, but I guess mercury could be another thing that would be in like sardines.
I think that's actually what I meant. I think that might be actually what I meant. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. No, it's really interesting, man. It's really interesting. I might look up the name later to try to figure out what Rogan was talking about with the raw vegetables. There's something though that's produced that turns into a toxin in the body when you eat too much. Yeah, it is pretty weird, man. So have you ever experimented with like meals shipped to your house, like the Blue Apron or like Butcher Box or anything like that?
Not really. I think that crap is. I would just run to the shop and get my chicken. Like you mentioned, this eating thing that we just talked about, the varied diet is hugely important. And like you said, you said that for like a long time, you just ate rice, chicken, veggies, right?
Yeah, every day for lunch.
How long? How long did you manage it?
I'd say maybe about 2 months, roughly. It's kind of hard to say, but at least probably
it's
about
torture.
2 months.
I hate this. Being a doughy. I love eating. I love different things. I love junk food. I don't mind eating like raw leaves. Most meals I have spring mix. Open like a bag of chips, and in between bites of my real meal, I'll have like a handful of the spring mix, just to like add fiber and water and not eat as many calories because there's like nothing in these leaves. But yeah, this is monotonous. So that's the only thing that I hate about it. I've tried meal prep, but I hate eating the same thing over and over and over. But at the same time, it's the easiest way to do something that's a really great idea, which is tracking what you actually eat. Actually keeping track of what you're consuming, how many calories are coming in, what weight of chicken you cooked, so that you know exactly how much protein, how many calories, how much fat. It's obsessive. It's crazy. It's kind of like you feel like you're a schizophrenic the first week that you do it, but afterwards it kind of comes naturally, and you can stop doing it. If you do it for a week, every meal, you're going to train yourself to understand the sizes of portions so well that you can stop doing it as much.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, kind of one of the basic things, that people could understand is, lean meats like grilled chicken, or like cooked on your stove or whatever, rather than like deep fried stuff. Rice, really good, opposed to like French fries or potatoes. Get your veggies, multivitamin, like he was saying. I've been taking zinc and vitamin D3 for a while now.
The sun is good. The physio that you make after 15 minutes of the area of your cheeks being exposed to the sun. So it's pretty easy to get it from the sun, but you do have to be outside. This is something I think is like hugely important for people's happiness, is to go outside every day, even if it's just a balcony, a porch, or if it's like a 10-minute walk around the neighborhood. Like, just be outside, especially during it's not the best advice during the pandemic, I guess, but being outside, there's something so essentially human to not being bound by the four walls.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but from what I've seen online, I think outside, if you're in your backyard, the COVID virus would probably be very like vulnerable to the sunlight, like a lot of viruses
Very
are.
True. Very, very true. Let me ask you this: do you drink coffee?
I do not as much. Now, ironically, I did today. I had like a triple shot of Starbucks, like one of those things at the gas station, and then like an espresso thing just to kind of prep for this episode. But generally, no, I haven't drank coffee in probably months.
Wow. Very good for you. Very, very good for you. I am a monster. I wouldn't say that I'm conscious between the time that I wake and I get to the coffee machine. I'm starting to, like, the computer is starting to boot up around the time that I'm like preparing the coffee in the machine and getting everything ready to go. Memories are being formed only after about second or third.
Do you have yours set up for like a time? Like someone that I work with was talking about how they have their coffee machine set up to like their the time that they wake up. So like they have a cup underneath the Keurig or whatever weird futuristic thing does this, and then the alarm goes off and it starts making coffee. Like I'm old school. I have one of the drip machines. I like espressos, but right now I don't have access to a machine, and I don't feel like going out to like Starbucks every time I want a coffee. So I just been dripping. And my kind of you might want to get that checked out if you've been dripping.
My kind of like, I don't know, like desire to have the best coffee.
You still there? Hello? All right, well, I think we lost him. We're going to reset real quick. I'm going to take a piss and see if he's still here. I think one of us might need to leave Discord and come back.